All right, let's just get right to it. It's the question that hangs over the Golden State like that coastal fog, you know? Can a regular person actually afford to live in California anymore?
I mean, you've heard it a million times, right? You've probably even said it yourself. The idea that California is just out of reach. It's become so common it basically feels like a fact. But what if it's not? What if that's just a story we've been told?
And here's a crazy thought. What if just believing that California is unaffordable is actually the most expensive mistake you could be making? Yeah, seriously. Let's break down exactly why.
Okay, so first things first, we gotta tackle the story everyone thinks they know. I'm talking about the Great California Housing Myth, because let me tell you, the headlines are not telling the whole story. Not even close.
Yeah, this narrative probably looks super familiar, right? It's the one that's totally laser-focused on the insane, eye-watering prices you see in places like San Francisco and LA. And that creates this huge illusion that the entire state is just completely off-limits for regular people.
But here's the thing. If you look past those screaming headlines, there's a much quieter and frankly, way more interesting story unfolding. It's happening in cities you might not even be thinking about.
And I'm not talking in hypotheticals. We're talking about real, actual places. Places like Bakersfield, Fresno, Modesto, and Chico. These 4 cities, they are quietly rewriting the entire script on what it means to be affordable in California.
Okay, now this is the number that changes the whole game. Get this, these areas aren't just cheaper for California. No, they are 15 to 20% below the national average cost of living. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. We're talking about cities in California that are more affordable than the average city in America. Wild, right?
So, okay, that sounds great, but what does that affordability actually look like, on the ground in real life? Let's zoom in and take a look at one of these cities as an example. Let's talk about Chico.
Boom. Here's the number that just completely shatters that myth. The average home price? It's around $390,000. All of a sudden, owning a home in California doesn't seem like some far-off dream, does it? It starts to feel like an actual plan.
And I know what you might be thinking. Okay, it's cheaper, but what's the catch? Well, it's not safety. In fact, Chico's crime rate is 25% lower than the state average, so you're getting both the financial accessibility and a really high quality of life.
All right, so we've established that these affordable spots absolutely exist. But that's only half the equation, right? The other half, well, that's the very, very real cost of just waiting.
Let's make this super personal. We all hear about mortgage rates going up and down, but what does a little jump, like, say, just 0.5%, actually do to your bank account? How much does it really cost you?
Okay, so let's use a pretty typical loan amount for one of these areas. We'll say about $350,000 and see what that real-world impact looks like.
Now, little 0.5% jump, it adds an extra $150 to your payment every single month. That's $1,800 a year, just gone, year after year. All of a sudden, waiting to see what happens has a very real and very expensive price tag.
And it's a double whammy, because you're getting squeezed from 2 different directions. First, even in these affordable cities, home prices are still climbing, like 6 to 8% a year. That means the exact same house could cost you 25, maybe even 50 grand more if you just wait 1 year. And at the same time, your rent just keeps going up, eating away at the very money you're trying to save for that down payment.
So, let's put this all together. Let's run the numbers and look at the straight-up math. Renting versus buying over 5 years in a city like Bakersfield. No opinions, just facts. And the numbers here are pretty stark. I mean, look at this. Over 5 years of renting, you'll have spent about $69,000. Poof, gone forever. You'll never see a dime of it again. But if you buy, in that same time, you could build around $45,000 in home equity. And that's the part of the home you actually own. It's your wealth, not your landlord's.
So here's the bottom line. After just 5 years, the person who bought a home is $45,000 wealthier than the person who rented. That is a truly life-changing amount of money.
So, what does all this data point to? Well, it points to one very clear conclusion. There is a window of opportunity here, but it might not be open for long.
Look, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The California dream, the one with an affordable home in a safe community with tons of opportunity, it's not dead. It's not even close to dead. It just moved.
But, and you really got to hear this part, that reality is changing.
As more and more people start to discover these gems, that window of affordability we've been talking about, it's definitely starting to close.
Which really just leaves you with a pretty simple choice, doesn't it? Now that you know the real cost of waiting, are you going to lock in today's prices, or are you going to wait and just pay more later?